morning to Queensland and good morning Townsville, and it's wonderful to be back in this part of the world and beautiful conditions here today. It's usually very hot this time of year in Townsville, but it's beautiful cool weather. Can I start by saying that we have 9,546 new cases. Included in that is 3,845 RATs. Tragically, I have to report today that we have lost 11 people overnight, and I know this is very heartbreaking to families. Can I say none of this is easy, you know, we don't want to be reporting this, but we are during a health pandemic, and Dr. Gerard will go through a bit more detail about the status and the ages, but they're all over 50 years of age. Doesn't make it any easier, and I know that there's people out there who are grieving, and on behalf of the people of Queensland, we extend our sympathies to people during this very sad time for their families. Dr. Gerard will also outline the number of people in hospital, a number of people in ICU, and the fact that we're in Townsville too. I might report that at the moment there are 37 people in the Townsville Hospital. One person is in ICU, and we do expect the peak in Townsville to be in about 2 weeks' time, but the Chief Health Officer will talk a little bit more about that. In good news, our vaccine coverage, 91.81%, at least one dose, and still inching closer to that 90% double dose, 89.18% of people are double vaccinated. And our 5 to 11-year-olds, it's great to see 26.54% of our children have had one dose, and 3,919 were done yesterday. So please remember the Vax Hubs are open tomorrow on Australia Day, so if you can get to a vaccination clinic to get your child vaccinated, please do so. Whilst I'm in Townsville, can I also congratulate the people of Townsville? This is really good news. In the Townsville region, 92% of Townsville people have had their first dose, and double dose is 89.2%. So really, Townsville is really sitting on the state average, which is fantastic news. So I do want to do a big shout out and thank everyone for coming forward and getting vaccinated and getting their boosters. So in terms of boosters, 50.28% of eligible people have received their booster. And don't forget, yesterday, if it's been 2 months since your second dose, you can actually come and get your booster. So can I please reiterate to people up here in the Townsville region, if you're due to get your booster, don't delay, get your booster, because it gives you that added layer of protection. So I'll hand over to the Chief Health Officer, then we'll take any questions in relation to COVID, and then we'll move on to the announcement today in Townsville. Dr. Gerard.
So thank you very much, Premier. So today, sadly, we have 11 deaths to report. One person in their 50s, one person in their 60s, 2 in their 70s, 3 in their 80s, and 4 in their 90s. Of these individuals, 4 were unvaccinated, 1 had had 1 dose of vaccine, 6 had had 2 doses, and none of these had had a booster. It is, as the Premier has said, this is a very difficult time for their families, and our thoughts are very much with them. In terms of the progress of the pandemic, and particularly the hospital situation, we now have 928 people in Queensland public hospitals. That's a significant rise from yesterday, up from 878 yesterday, as we approach our general peak in Queensland in the next couple of weeks. This includes 51 patients in the intensive care unit, 13 of whom are ventilated, which is up slightly from yesterday from 50, so that's an increase of 1. As we've heard here in Townsville, there are 37 people in hospital. I understand an extra ward was opened last night, and the peak is expected. We expect an acceleration in the number of cases here in Townsville over the next 2 weeks, as Townsville approaches its peak in about 2 weeks' time. But thankfully you have high vaccination rates here in Townsville, and that will put you in good stead to move forward. And that does remind us that we're very much part of a global phenomenon. Pretty well the whole world is seeing this this wave of Omicron almost simultaneously, give or take a few weeks, from starting in South Africa, London, etc., around the world. We're all experiencing the same thing right here, including right here in Townsville. The good news in most of the world, what we've seen is a steady rise in cases over a period of about 1 month, followed by a steady fall over the next month. And that's what we are expecting to see here in Queensland. Now, what happens at the end of that second month, that will be a time to regroup. There'll be some sort of tail, and there may be future cases as we move forward, but that will be a time to regroup when we get to the end of that second month, sometime at the end of February or early March. But in the meantime, we're very much focused on the current wave as we reach a peak at various stages across the state as part of a global phenomenon. And I just would like just one more time to remind everybody, as we're approaching the peak, if you are at the point where you are eligible to get a booster shot, that's a third dose, which is any time within 3 months of your second dose, now is the time to get it. We know that the booster dose gives significantly additional protection well over and above the second dose. It's well and truly worthwhile getting that third dose if you're eligible for it. That is, if you had your second dose 3 months ago. Get it now as we approach the peak. And I remind you, the peak is not the end. The peak is the high point of the pandemic. And then over the next month after the peak, the numbers are expected to fall to a level, and then we'll see what happens thereafter. It's still a little bit unclear worldwide what will happen at the end of this wave, but we do know that cases will decline over the month after the peak. Thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to the Premier.
Any questions about COVID?
Yes. So Palm Island Community Company and Queensland Health are vaccinating children at school. Is that something that you might be looking at rolling out across the state?
Sorry, who is?
The Palm Island Community Company and Queensland Health working together to get their kids
Yeah,
vaccinated?
in some communities where they don't have access to GPs and pharmacists, there will be some schools, but that's not going to happen statewide because we've got our vaccination hubs around the state, and also too, people can go to their GPs and their pharmacists.
And with childcare centres are calling for the RATs to be provided from the state government. They're saying that the centres had to close due to short staffing issues. Are there going to be free RATs provided to those services?
We'll be making our announcements about return to school later on during the week, so I'll be elaborating on that further. Yeah.
Why hasn't that announcement been made yet, considering some essential work, children of essential workers?
Yeah, children of essential workers are going there to the schools that are open, of course. That was our commitment. And secondly, we said that, full school cohort does not go back until Monday the 7th of February. In other states, schools have either returned to full schooling year, or they're starting sometime this week. So we'll be making our announcement later during the week. And I might just advise people, and the Education Minister said I can do this, that the Education Minister has COVID. We wish her a speedy recovery. So as soon as she is back on deck, the Education Minister and I will make that announcement. I think people can understand that I'd like the Education Minister to be here for that announcement.
Is the government tracking the uptake of vaccinations on Palm Island?
We're looking very carefully at that, and of course we've had people going door to door. Can I just say to residents of Palm Island, if there is any hesitancy whatsoever, please talk to a GP or a health professional. Vaccination, you can hear it from Dr. Gerard as well, our Chief Health Officer. The vaccination helps prevent serious disease, and this is a global pandemic, and the virus is here in Townsville. It's right across Queensland, and I want to protect as many people as possible, and the vaccine does give that extra layer of protection, and especially that booster. So when your booster is due, please go and get your booster.
Do you have the updated stats for the number of new cases on Palm Island?
I don't at the moment, but we can get that for you.
Brisbane and Cairns are expected to see their peak in the coming week. How are those hospitals coping? Are there enough beds and are there enough staff?
Yes, we've done a lot of planning, and Cabinet was briefed on that yesterday. And in some good news, I'm heartened by this news, but we're going to wait to see what happens over the next 1 to 2 weeks. The peak and the utilisation of hospital beds is actually lower than what we were expecting. So later on during this week, I'll release some of that data. I just want to see how the peak goes at the moment, but at the moment, where we're tracking, we will be able to cope.
How's the kids' break rate? Is she in hospital or at home?
No, she's at home. Yeah.
And just with those hospitals, will Brisbane still be able to take sick COVID patients from regions like Townsville and Cairns when they're full of COVID patients themselves?
Well, you've got a very good hospital here, and it's coping. That's why Dr. Gerard came up here as well. He wants to personally go and check with the hospital and make sure everything's okay. But we are not hearing any reports that it's not. And it's in some good news, the fact that our hospitals are going to be reaching that peaks at different time should give Queenslanders a bit more comfort as well. It's not everything happening all at once.
You say Townsville says to hit its peak in 2 weeks' time. What does that look like in terms of case numbers?
Well, we'll be monitoring that. We'll get some better data over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be able to update the Townsville community. Okay.
So Townsville, we've just got a third COVID ward recently opened, and so we've still got our peak to come. So there's only a few number of beds at each of these regional hospitals. How are those areas going to handle those numbers?
Yeah, we're very comfortable with the projections at the moment that we have bed capacity. So at the moment, like I said, in heartening news, the track is not as high for the demand of beds as we initially were expecting.
Just a question to the Charles.
Yeah, sure.
As well. Dr. Gerard, just on hospitals in the southeast as well, how are they currently coping as they are approaching that peak more quickly than places like North Queensland?
Look, there is no question that as we approach the peak, there will be strain and stress on individual hospitals. But the peak appears to be slightly less in most areas, and it won't necessarily be the same everywhere than we had planned for, slightly less. And there will be strain transiently, but the hospitals are coping well at this stage.
We've heard nationally that they're saying that the peak is starting to tip off the southern states as well. When are we expecting to see that more likely in Queensland for a statewide sort of average, I guess?
Queensland's a little different to the other states insofar as we're a more dispersed state. So it will happen at different rates in different places. So Townsville will be delayed by probably a couple of weeks compared, say, with the Gold Coast, but not by that much. It's surprising how quickly this virus does spread. So the Gold Coast is probably going through its peak now, or it's probably just past its peak. We expect Brisbane to be going through its peak next week, and probably Townsville the following week. It's that sort of rate of progression. Cairns, interestingly, is a little bit earlier, probably approaching a peak now or in the next few days. But so it's different in different regions.
We've watched COVID really hit our Indigenous communities quite hard across the country, and a lot of them have the same problems: low vaccination rates and hesitancy, and cultural barriers with medical staff. Why wasn't more done to ensure Palm Island vaccination rates?
Well, I think you'll find that the vaccination rates vary enormously between the different First Nations communities. So some have very high vaccination rates, some have lower vaccination rates. There's been a lot of very active work by Queensland Health on Palm Island to encourage vaccination. I mean, in the end, we can't make people get vaccinated. We can only encourage people to get vaccinated and provide the vaccine for them as much as possible. And I think that, I know that has been done on Palm Island. I've been talking with the people that work on Palm Island. So.
Last couple of questions. Just one more for the Premier, just on Wellcare. With the state government's been accused of breaching its own confidentiality guidelines and failing to reveal the costs of the Wellcare facility. What's your response to that?
They're commercial in confidence, and like I said, it's much cheaper than the cost anticipated for other quarantine facilities in other states.
And is there any further information coming out about those costs of Wellcare in the near future?
No.
Did Grace raise it at cabinet yesterday?
No. Jill's on the phone.
Well, that's the police announcement now. We're hearing some claims that Wellcare could be a waste of taxpayer money. What do you say to that?
Can I say, Queenslanders backed this, having a quarantine facility. It will be utilised, and who knows what's going to happen around the corner with this pandemic, and we are well prepared. We are absolutely prepared, and we've planned for this, and it'll be put to good use, and we should be very proud that we have a quarantine facility that'll be up and running in a matter of weeks. Okay? All right, might move on to the next. Thank you very much, Chief Health Officer. Okay, and So I'm very pleased today we have Minister Mark Ryan here, our Commissioner, Ian Levers from the Police Union, and of course the local MPs, Minister Scott Stewart, Les Walker, and of course local member Aaron Harper, who I know who is particularly pleased with this announcement today. It's something that his community will be greatly appreciative for. And I do want to thank the Commissioner for coming along today as well, because we value police in this state, and what we're announcing today is another investment in police facilities that are needed for this community. And I'm very proud that when you look at this site, and this was, you know, the home for the Cowboys for many years. I remember coming to some of the matches here, and we wanted to put out, you know, what can this be utilised for, and today we are announcing the first stage of putting this stadium, this former stadium, to good use. So today I can announce that we will be investing $30 million into a brand new state-of-art police facility right here at the old 1300 Smiles site. This will be a huge added piece of infrastructure into the Townsville community. It will also support local jobs. Nearly 100 jobs will be on site here. That's 100 people being able to work on this site, and the demolition will start soon, and we expect that demolition to start during the middle of this year. Construction is expected to be completed by late 2024, but I'm quite sure that if we can speed that up, we definitely will be, and the facility will be operational in 2025. The hub will support up to 120 officers in the first stage, but this is a very, very good use of this facility. I know a lot of people have been asking what's going to be happening. There is some expressions of interest as well for some other parts of land here. We'll be announcing those progressively, but today is a really great day. This is an investment by our government in the people of this state who serve our state, our men and women on the front line, but also too for the community as well. So I think everyone should be absolutely delighted with this news today. So I'll hand over to the Minister, the Commissioner, and then the local members. I'm quite sure Ian will say a few words as well. Minister?
Thanks very much, Premier, and you're right, this is an exciting day for Townsville and an exciting day for the Queensland Police Service. And we've got two announcements today. The first is very, very local to Townsville, and the second is of some international note. And some people would say that Townsville is the centre of the universe, so it is exciting to be making that second announcement here in Townsville, and we'll get to that in a few moments. But at the last election, as further proof of the Palaszczuk government's commitment to keeping communities safe and to supporting the Queensland Police Service, we made a very significant commitment to Townsville and the surrounding areas. And that was to not only deliver extra police to this policing region, the northern region, of at least an extra 150 officers, but to also invest in the facilities to support the existing police here in Townsville, as well as also the additional police that will be delivered to Townsville as part of our election commitment. And one of those facilities was a $30 million new facility for the Kerwin area. And what better place to put it than here at 1300 Smiles. This will allow us to deliver a significant piece of policing infrastructure that not only accommodates police now, but secures the future for policing facilities into the future. This will be a massive facility. It will allow us to consolidate some of our policing functions, but also it will provide a state-of-the-art new home for the Kerwin Police Station, which it will ensure that this community and communities right across the Townsville region can continue to be well supported from a community safety perspective. So I wanted to thank the Premier for her strong leadership on supporting police and community safety, but also to our local police here in Townsville for their hard work. They are out there working every single day keeping this community safe. It is challenging work, but I know that they are extremely dedicated in the work that they do. And can I commend the local members, in particular Aaron Harper, who has been a strong advocate for getting a great community outcome out of this site. And what better outcome can you have than having a police facility, a state-of-the-art police facility, which will accommodate policing functions and great community safety outcomes for many decades to come. So I'll now hand over to the local members to say a few things.
Well, can I first thank the Premier and our Police Minister for being here today, and welcome the Cho, first time in Townsville, and a shout out to our health staff, our HHS staff, looking after those 37 patients, and the great partnership they have with Mater Hospital in ensuring capacity in managing COVID. Today's announcement for the old 1300 Smile Stadium to commit the $30 million, to see the $30 million that we committed in 2020 to come to fruition is unprecedented. $30 million, if you put that in perspective, we opened up a new ambulance station in Kerwin just a year ago, $3 million, 10 times the amount to back our police, to give them the best facilities for the future. And this is about planning in advance. This site will be able to connect a lot of the policing operations, as the Police Minister has said, and provide something very special for our community. We know, and having come from an emergency services background, that our police and emergency services are revered in Townsville. We only have to look at the response the police and our emergency services did in 2019 during the floods, of just how high held in regard they are held in Townsville, and we want to make sure they've got the absolute best facilities to be able to operate from. So to the Police Minister, I know a lot of conversations have been had with police and emergency services. Thank you very much. Premier, thank you very much for being here in Townsville, making sure that this commitment is delivered. A shout out to the Treasurer and the Deputy Premier. There's a lot of components to this that will have some community good in terms of the old assets from the 1300 Smiles Stadium. The stadium's Queensland lets go of this particular facility. There's a number of assets for community good. So be those amenities, you're only looking at some mobile fridges to my left over here. There's so many parts to this that have community good as we establish what will be the best police facility, I'm going to say it, in Queensland, right here in North Queensland. Thank you.
Well, it's great to welcome the Premier back to Townsville. It's countless times, the number of times she's been here, but it's great, this announcement today, particularly to see the Minister for Police, Mark Ryan, here with us, as well with another $30 million announcement. Can I shout out to all our police for the outstanding work that they do each and every day and every night as well. They keep our community safe. We know that the local police are absolutely invested in our community, and this shows the Palaszczuk government is absolutely invested into our police by providing these assets, these resources and this infrastructure to support our police to be able to do the best job that they possibly can, and they do. So this is a great announcement today, $30 million that will be certainly well received by the police, I'm sure, but certainly received by the community, because it's about keeping our community safe by giving the police the absolute best resources and assets to do their job. Well done.
Thank you, Minister. First I'd like to welcome the Premier back here. It's fantastic to have the Premier here, the Chief Health Officer, as well as the Commissioner of Police, Katarina Carroll, and Assistant Commissioner, Mark Wheeler. Great announcement, $30 million investment here in our local police service. What's exciting about this is policing is changing every day of the year. That is very important, that we have a master plan site that will adapt to the ever-changing policing techniques in the region, but it'll be an integrated site that allows a footprint that other services can interact a lot more efficiently, and demonstrates that this government, the Palaszczuk Labor government, is serious about policing in this region. As the Premier has alluded, and the Minister, Minister Ryan, that we, as the three members here in this region, have continually had conversations in Brisbane and with the appropriate ministers about policing issues in this region. And this is another demonstration that we take it seriously. We gave those commitments during the election, and that's why I joined this team, to make sure that we move forward meeting the community expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and absolutely wonderful to be back in Townsville. It is a very exciting announcement, an extraordinary announcement actually. We've been speaking about this for a long time, and a sincere thank you to the government for this announcement. For us, what does it mean? It's geographically perfectly positioned, so close to future growth, to the arterial roads, to the corridors that we need to get to. It brings a lot of our resources together. As you all know, Curwen Station is getting larger, we're outgrowing it, so it'll accommodate people from Curwen. It'll accommodate people from our specialist units and also accommodate the management of the district and the region into the future. So certainly from a policing perspective, extraordinarily pleased. It is future focused. It'll be here for, and it will accommodate easily for the next 50 years. To all the police in Townsville, can I sincerely thank you for an amazing job that you've done throughout COVID, but always an amazing job in looking after and keeping the community safe, and that's what your role is, and you do it so well. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Premier and Minister, for this wonderful announcement, and I know that my police in Townsville will welcome it and I think enjoy the facilities very much into the future. We will unveil, obviously, in the out months and years, show you what it looks like, where what is going, and that's the exciting part of it. We'll be heavily involved in the design, and certainly that will happen over the next several months as well. So thank you.
Look, thank you very much, and Premier Palaszczuk and Minister Mark Ryan, what a great announcement here for a $30 million facility for our police in Townsville. I'm very fortunate to represent the hard-working men and women who keep the streets of Townsville safe and do a very difficult job day in, day out. But for a facility like this, which will be the state-of-the-art facility, that is a real positive for police in Townsville, and they are deserving of it, and it is great to see that we'll utilise a site like 1300 Smile Stadium. More importantly for me as well, as it wasn't too long ago when we were looking at losing infrastructure in Townsville, and that's a very recent memory for me. But what this $30 million will also ensure, apart from the state-of-the-art facility, it will ensure a footprint for Townsville and police well into the future as well. So I look further, probably I'm going to say now, to further investment in policing in Townsville as we move into the coming years, but it is really important, and this will house police from a wide range of areas, which will be really important for us to be able to do the job and look after the people of Townsville, as we have seen you know, in times of disasters, which we've been certainly at the forefront there. But $30 million in Townsville, that's a great announcement, and at a facility like this, and as I say, it ensures the footprint into the future, and it ensures that we will not lose infrastructure in the future. In fact, I see a brighter future where it can only get better from here. So thank you. It's something I've been campaigning for a long time. Pretty passionate about Townsville because they work really hard, as do police right across the state of Queensland, but this is fitting, and to have the state-of-the-art infrastructure available to us and give us the ability to grow with the growing demands in policing is certainly welcomed by the men and women that I represent here in Townsville. Thank you.
So just before inviting questions, I'm coming back to that international announcement. I'm sure there's lots of questions and lots of excitement, and I'll invite some of our officers from the Queensland Police Service here. This is the first time in the world that you will be seeing this. So as part of the Queensland Government's commitment to resourcing our policing front line, at the last election we made a $77 million equipment guarantee for our police officers. A really key component of that is these new vests. This is the first time in the world you will see these vests. These are integrated load-bearing ballistic vests which incorporate a number of key elements required to keep our police safe. So not only will they provide bladed weapon protection, but also ballistic protection. It incorporates the load-bearing vest that many of our officers wear every day to hold their accoutrements and equipment, as well as also being reflective. So we're now in the final stages of doing the fit testing for this prototype. Over the next few months, right across Queensland, officers will be trialling this prototype. And the hope is that come July, we will be able to start the rollout of these integrated vests right across the state. Why is this an international first? One, because of the technology and the incorporation of all of these elements together. But also, this will be the largest rollout in the world of equipment of this nature. So we're committing $24 million to this project. It will deliver one of these vests to every single one of our officers, over 12,000 officers right across the state. So this is exciting news for the Queensland Police, but it's also life-saving news for the Queensland Police Service as it enhances the safety and protection our officers need to do their job of keeping the community safe. So again, I want to acknowledge the Premier's strong leadership on prioritising investments in policing. This was an election commitment and we're delivering on it. But I also do want to take this opportunity to commend Ian Levers in the Police Union. He is a strong advocate for all police right across the state, and because of his advocacy, the government has listened and taken action and made these election commitments. I know Ian's been advocating for a very long time around bladed weapon protection for officers. So this takes it to the next level and incorporates all of those other safety features. So before inviting questions, I'm going to invite Ian and the Commissioner to provide some remarks about these vests, and then we'll open it up for questions about the stadium as well as also the vests.
Once again, a sincere thank you. The technology and the design in these vests are quite extraordinary. I'd say it's a world first, some of the best technology in the world. As you've heard, it doesn't just provide ballistic protection, it's also protection from bladed weapons as well. And it's a combination of the load-bearing vest and the ballistic vest. The designs are quite impressive, but what we've been able to do is also test them in very different geographic areas across Queensland. Vast state, weather conditions are very, very different. That will happen over the next few months, but we will be rolling out 12,200 of them in the future. And it really is about protection to our staff. I thank all of the officers that have been involved in this. It has been an amazing piece of work over an extended period of time. But from my perspective, it really is one of the biggest rollouts ever in policing history of equipment like this and some of the best technology in the world. I'm hoping that you stay back after this and get the officers to really give you an insight as to how it works and looks. Thank you.
Look, thanks Premier and thanks Minister Ryan. This was something going into the last state election I was very passionate about, ensuring that the police that I represent have the equipment to protect them. I cannot underestimate the load-bearing vests as well as with the ballistic and the knife edge capability to protect police. You cannot underestimate that. Police across Queensland, they've been wanting this for a long time, and in fact all police will be individually issued with a vest, with a knife-resistant and a ballistic capability. That is really important for them, and that could very well save their lives. They will also have an impact, also protecting police against other trauma, possibly not their design. But this is a great initiative, and for the $24 million commitment, I thank the Premier and I thank the Minister for delivering on this, which was an election commitment. We've asked for this for over many years, and it's something that I won't go away on. But to see this finally happen, and to my colleagues who are standing either side of me, the work that has gone into this in the procurement and the preparation and the testing right across Queensland, and as was mentioned by the Commissioner, we are a very diverse state in Queensland, and the conditions change from the Cape. You go to Burrsville as you do to Coolangatta. For the work that they've done and they've invested their time, I thank them very much, and I really look forward to the individual issue to all police right across Queensland, because this will protect them and may very well save their lives, which is really important. And I cannot thank you enough, because this means a lot to those on the front line, and also to their families who worry each and every time that they leave home, wondering whether or not their mother, their father, their son or their daughter or their brother or their sister will return home. So this is a great announcement, and thank you very much, and is well received by the men and women of the Queensland Police Service. Thank you.
Questions?
Can I just give a bit of a pregnant? There is some pretty heavy rain coming, so we'll go through this pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Premier, just on the announcement here today, a lot of members of the Townsville community are also calling for more policing staff to be added to Townsville, given large rates of youth crime. Is that something that you're looking into?
We've invested. There's over 700 police here at the moment in Townsville, and since 2015, we've added an extra 130 police officers to the Townsville district.
Is there room for more?
Look, we'll always take the advice of the Police Commissioner when it comes to extra resources, but we have a lot of great men and women here that really serve this community, and I want to personally thank each and every one of them for the work that they're doing.
The KAP is also calling for a long-term sentencing model and a new facility in North Queensland that was originally meant to be built in Caloundra. Is that something that you'd be looking into as a way to curb youth crime?
I'm not aware of what they're saying. I'll have a look at it. They'll probably write into the police minister.
Will the new stadium plan be modelled on the base in Arundel?
Sorry?
Will the new police stadium plan be modelled on the base that exists in Arundel?
Look, they'll be taking into account the needs of the region here. So once those plans are ready to be released, they'll be absolutely shown to the community.
Just over a fortnight ago, a woman died after waiting more than 2 hours for an ambulance in here. And I know this is for emergency services. We're just about to hit our peak here in Townsville. I guess this is going to be up in 2024. What can we do in the meantime to support our emergency services so that this doesn't happen again in Townsville?
Look, can I just say at the moment we are experiencing some delays. We are seeing added pressures with our emergency services and also with our hospitals because of the extra demand that COVID is placing on the system. I'm asking Queenslanders for their patience during this period. We are going to get through this together, and I'm very proud of the vaccination rates, and to your earlier questions about the vaccination rates across Queensland, especially into our Indigenous communities. My ministers went out and about to nearly every part of this state urging people to get vaccinated, and they responded. We've sent people in some remote communities door to door. Every person in Queensland has been offered the vaccination. So really it is now up to the individuals, if they have any questions, to seek any further clarification from the health professionals. But getting that vaccine does help prevent serious disease.
Circling back to youth crime, we hear a lot about the government being tough on and the police being tough on crime.
Yep.
So when do we get tough on the Department of Child Safety and Youth Justice?
They're all working together. This is never going to be solved overnight. And for the first time in the last couple of years, we finally got all of the agencies sitting down there working together, and that's a bonus.
There's been no significant insight to a lot of those departments since the death of Mason Lee in 2016.
There's been a lot of oversight. There has been thorough investigations into that matter.
I mean, into that specific case,
Yep.
but not the departments as a whole. But when
but those issues were canvassed throughout the department as well.
So
The Office of Children's Commissioner looked into departmental. There's reports on that.
does it look into the impact of youth crime?
Well, that didn't have anything to do with youth crime. That was in relation to there was a conviction held for the parents there.
There's no scope for the government to look at what.
I don't understand your connection. What's your connection? Sorry.
I'll just finish explaining. Does the government see any space for a transparent oversight into those departments and the role that they play?
That's why we've got the Office of the Children's Commissioner, so she can look at systemic issues, if there are any, and there have been countless reports that have been done.
Have any of the local members brought up with you about youth crime and the issues that are being faced here in Townsville?
They're always raising these issues with me. They raise issues, all different issues about Townsville, and today I'm really pleased to have a $54 million announcement for the Townsville community. The new state-of-the-art police facility, and of course the rollout of these vests. This is the government investing in the people that serve your community. Okay, we might wrap it up, folks.
Sorry, one more from down south.
Last one, yep. Down south, you mean Brisbane? Down south? Just checking, not way down south, Canberra, Brisbane.
Just regarding the Whiskey a Go-Go fire, are you concerned that a police officer was directed to redact a report, and will the government investigate that?
My understanding those matters are before the coroner. I might see if the police commissioner wants to comment further. Thanks, everyone.
Look, these matters are before the coroner, so it's incredibly, I really can't say anything about it. The coronial system and process we have in Queensland is exceptional. So I think we really need to leave it to that process and see what comes out of that.
Ms. Carroll, we've had a lot of conversation locally about police operations targeting property crime.
Yep.
How do these operations differ from business as usual
we always target offences. It doesn't matter whether it's domestic violence, break and enters, so we always try and prevent crime and respond to crime. However, when you see spikes, you move your resources around to put it to that incident. So we've brought a phenomenal amount of police together. I think it's over 50 at the moment to really hone in on a number of offenders as well as those offences. And some extraordinary figures just in a number of days. So 22 people charged for 118 offences, 12 of those are juveniles and 10 of those are adults. However, if I was to say to you, how many people are involved in targeting property offenders, that happens every day. So if we see a spike, we'll bring a task force together, we'll address it, and then we obviously, go around and BAU. But this is not just for property offences, it's for domestic violence, it's for COVID. It's about being agile and it's about responding.
What's the response to criticism that giving a police operation a name and a title in the public and in the media essentially just allows police to accumulate statistics on it rather than do it on business as usual?
I think that's a really unfair response. We often bring operations together and task forces together to address issues. We do that in COVID, we do that in domestic violence operations. We just had a statewide domestic violence operation where we gave that a name as well. So I think it's incredibly important when you bring staff together in a task force type approach to record it and have statistics against it. It's just one way of being flexible and agile in how you deliver services. It has a very quick impact and an extraordinary impact. So, and that's what we're doing at the moment.
Look, this rain's only going to get heavier. We've got to go.
Thank you. This will only open in 2025. What's being done until then?
No, so there is a bit of work being done until then. The design will happen, and you asked about Arundel. Arundel, as if some of you don't know, is one of the most amazing facilities. It was built very, very quickly, very agile, responds to all type of policing. So we are looking at that for here, but certainly there is going to be a very staged approach to this. There will be some areas that will come in sooner and some areas that will come in later. It's exciting, looking forward to keeping you informed.
Thanks, everyone.